Hi, I'm Melanie Olson, and I am an elementary classroom teacher from Buffalo, Hanover, Montrose schools. And today we're going to talk about easy computer science integration in the area of math. And when we think about our 12 pedagogy principles, depending on what activities you choose to use, you can hit all of them in the subject of math. So, jumping right in, one of my favorite resources is code.org, and they have a series of activities where Anna and Elsa are asked to or challenged to create geometrical figures by ice skating. And so students are using degrees and angles and rotations. Here you can see an example of what that code would look like. And here is a more complex pattern that Elsa is doing and what that would look like. Code.org also has a very great example of showing students what it looks like when they turn by a certain degree. And I love this visual because when students are able to put themselves spatially in a position where they can understand what happens when they make a turn by a certain degree of angles, it really helps them conceptualize what they're doing, and it reinforces that mathematical concept of angles and turns, and it also helps them when they're coding their characters. And then they're able to relate to that. So here is Scratch the Cat, and there are a lot of activities where Scratch is going to be moving using degrees and angles. And this is a great visual too because it's circular, and so it helps students understand and relate to the degrees of a circle. And here's an example of Scratch the Cat on a coordinate plane. And your students aren't going to come across these concepts in math until 5th or 6th grade. You're right. So those of you who are in primary or even those lower intermediate levels who are like, this is way above my kid's head, they are not doing this. Well, they're going to want to do it, and they're going to want to learn how Scratch is able to move. So by showing them visuals like this, you can really help them conceptualize what they're doing so they can learn the math concepts through computer science before they get to that in your regular curriculum. So here's a video for Watch It Later. And it's probably going to try to start playing when it pops up. But this is from a really great resource that shows, I think I got it. It uses an analogy of a street address. And so here's the link to the direct website, and here's some examples of what their free lessons and resources are. But it uses the position on a coordinate plane kind of like a street address. We start with a number, and then we have a label, which is your street. So it has a number and then the street. And it kind of relates that to the X and Y. And it really helps students understand that movement on the plane a little bit better. Here is another resource, and this is a YouTube channel created by a student. So this little guy and his dad create tons of videos that show kids how to do really great things on Scratch. And so he has a number of Scratch accounts that are all listed here that you can follow. This is listed right on his YouTube channel. And there's a specific one that I chose to share with my students. This is another Watch It Later video because it's a little longer. And let me pause it as it's coming up. But this video shows students how to create their own math fact fluency game. And I know I have a hard time when my students are not quite getting those math facts and they really need to have them in order to be fluent, because everything comes more easily in math when you know your math facts, teachers. We know this. And so by having students create their own game, they are more motivated to not only input the correct information, but then they want to play their game, or they want to play their friend's version of the game. So there's a few different ways that you can use this. Let me stop it before I go forward. All right, so here's another link to the game that was created by the channel. So a few ways you can use this. You can have students read and explore the code first. Let them go to this guy's project and check it out and see what did he do. Have students play that game. Challenge them to remix the game themselves, or have them follow that tutorial that was linked on a previous slide, and they can go through it step by step if they're ready for that challenge. Here is my remixed version of the game that I created to show my students as an example. And one thing that I did that was different is when the students get an answer correct or incorrect, I recorded my own voice to give them feedback. So my kids think it's kind of dorky, but I think it's great. On the notes, please note that I did give credit to the original creator of the project because it is a remix. So be sure to do that if you do the same thing. Primary teachers. Now, I've gone through a lot of examples of things that are upper level math skills. And yes, you are going to have younger students who want to strive to learn those upper level math skills in order to be able to code more complex projects. But primary teachers, you can be using the same language too. So I use the create your own block option in Scratch and made some examples of what I would do if I was teaching kindergarten as I used to. So for instance, you could say, when I say go, or when I click the green flag, we're gonna count to 10. And you can change that block to say whatever you like. Or you can talk about loops. And when we do repeats, that's looping. Instead of having the same direction over and over, I can do a repeat. We can count by 1. And we can repeat it 10 times. We can count by 2s and repeat it 10 times. We can count by 5s 10 times. We can count by 10s 10 times. And so your options are open on that one. Just because you are working on other concepts in primary doesn't mean that you can't use this language so that when students are in higher grade levels, this is something that's familiar to them. Another example is using movement. Lots of times in kindergarten classrooms, we want to get those kids moving and going. And so you can have them do repeats by doing something physical like clapping or hopping or jumping or skipping. Whatever your standards are and whatever skills you're working on and however you want to get your kids moving, you can create a block in Scratch that incorporates the math concept and computer science language. So that's what I have for you today. At the bottom of this slide is a link to the Google Slides. So there you can go back and you can watch the videos or tutorials that we didn't take the time to watch together. And again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Thank you for watching.